Want to thank you for joining me on another Let's Talk with the Doc. I'm excited to be here as always. And every week I say the same thing. I sound like a scratch record because God has been so good that every time He just brings some amazing people into my path with great stories to share on this platform. And I love to hear great stories because stories are inspirational and they are motivational and they give hope to other people. And so tonight I have with me Sister Carole Peters, and she's joining me from Jamaica live. And I can't wait to hear what her story is. So hang in there, my friends. When I come back, I am going to be talking to Sister Carole, and I can't wait. See you in a minute.
ORB Ministry presents Let's Talk with the Doc. Grace Without Borders podcast. A thought for you. Ask Pastor. And a whole lot more. You never know what's next or who will join the conversation.
All right. Here we are, and I have with me Sister Carole Peters. And Sister Peters, welcome to you. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Dr. Beckford. I am good.
All right. Here we are. What am I? I'm hearing. What is speaking? One second. What is speaking? Something is speaking back into my ears, which is not good. Something. I have too many things going on. Am I hearing yours or mine?
You're hearing yours.
Okay, so let me get rid of something over this side. Okay, 1 second there. I'm having too much going on here. I'm trying to keep up with. I didn't expect to go live already. 1 second. Okay, not with this one. Okay, so that was the problem. All right, got that sorted out. Okay, so here we are, Sister Peters. Good to
Yes,
have
sir.
you on Let's Talk with the Doc. How has your day been?
My day has been quiet. Maybe just thinking about what's going to happen tonight.
So you,
It has been a
so you,
quiet day, a very
so
quiet
you were
day.
you were deliberately quiet.
Yes, maybe. I just had one or two persons calling me and telling me just to relax
Oh,
and
you were
they
so
prayed for
you're
me
getting some little boost. You're getting some help. So
and
okay,
they
take
prayed
it
for
easy.
me. Yes.
And they pray for you. All right.
Yes.
So now I can let you know you relax right now because you're at a good place. Okay. I guarantee you that you're gonna be relaxed. Take a deep breath. Blow the fear steam off, the anxiety. Calm down. Relax. Everything is gonna be just good. All right. So I'm excited to have you on the program, and thank you for joining me. And normally, as I said to you before, everybody has a story. Everyone has a story. People's stories are uniquely different, and they come with different inspiration. Different effect and impact on people's lives. So I am just glad to have you tonight. So all right, I want to get to know Sister Peters more than I've ever known her, and the only way to get to know her is to hear her story. So tell me something about Carole Peters. Where were you born? What was life like when in your early days? Tell me a little bit about your beginning of days. Where were you born?
Okay. I was born in, I was content, Yorktown, Clarendon, Jamaica, of course. And I'm the fourth of five children from my mother, and she's a single parent, and I'm the sixth of nine for my father. All my mother's children are still alive, but my father, two of them died.
I'm
Two,
sorry to hear that.
yeah. I lost my brother last September, and maybe that it was really shocking for me because I was really expecting it.
You weren't
But
expecting it, so that
yeah,
was like
I wasn't
sudden.
expecting. I wasn't expecting.
Oh wow.
I grew up partially in Kingston at the Mona Rehab because I am a victim of polio.
Oh, you are.
Yes, I am. I
Oh.
I was told maybe I cannot say it's by my mother's because she didn't really speak much about it. But I have two sisters who are much older than I am, and they are like my mothers. They are like my second mothers. So I heard from them, and I also heard from other persons living in the community what actually went down. My mother said to me that I was a bubbly little girl, and when I was about 9 months old, she noticed one morning when she had me in the baby bath, which was an enamel bath. I
Remember
did
those
not,
bad.
I was not as bubbly as I used to be. I was rather quiet. And when she said normally I would get up and stand up and hold on, and she had to be very careful. But that morning I was very silent, and when she put me to stand, she realized I was just standing on one leg and
Hmm.
one was sort of swinging, and she realized also I was running a temperature. So she called other persons in the yard because we're living in this big yard with a number of different families. And the decision was to take me to the doctor. And when I got to the doctor confirmed that I had contracted the virus, which then there was no vaccine for. And it was new just as COVID came in on us. So I was sent off to the Lornatown Hospital and separated from my mother. They did not allow her to see me now because there were a number of children there too who were also ill. And so that was a separation. How long I stayed there, I do not know. How long I stayed at the hospital, I do not know. I didn't
Hmm.
never heard that. And then after a time, I guess everybody was sort of discharged and went home. So I was home now with my family. I was told that I did not walk because I usually creep and maybe stand and but no walking. And so that happened for a period of time. I don't really know how long. I can only think about what I can remember from my childhood. I remember though that I could have been about 4 years old when I went to the Mona rehab that was opened for the polio victims in Jamaica. And this was done by Professor John Golding, who came from England to assist with the problem here in Jamaica. I think I was about four. And the reason why I say so, I remember my sister having a baby. And I know I told her she used to call the little girl Pam. So I think I could be about 4 years old.
So she was that much older than you were.
Yeah, yeah, she's many years older than me.
So you were born healthy, everything was
Yes,
fine,
normal,
and then
normal.
just down the road you contract this virus, and all of
Yeah,
a sudden it had this immediate impact on your life.
a sudden change
Wow,
on my life.
wow.
So when I got to the rehab, they had to do a number of things, and everybody there, all the children there, had polio, boys and girls. Some were younger than some older. Where we had the ward where the girls were, the ward where the boys were, the ward where the babies were, and then there was a new ward that was made. This was donated by Princess Margaret, and that was called hostel. So the senior students, the teenagers were placed over there, and they were under the directorship of Matron Pringle, while the nurses and the sisters took care of the rest of us on the other section of the ward.
How long did you stay there for rehab?
I stayed there for a good while because I remember I didn't walk. I used to use a wheelchair at one point, and you had to do your therapy. So we went to the clinic, and we had to do the physiotherapist to get the leg strengthened. Those who had it in their legs. Some persons it was two legs. Some persons it was one leg and a hand.
Some
Some
actually
persons,
had in two legs.
yes, there are children who had both legs.
Really?
Yes, and so they had to be using, they definitely had to use a wheelchair, but the rest of us who could manage, we used the crutches or walkers. As you go in stages to be for the therapy, you started developing strength. There were a number of things there that was made for our comfort. For example, we had a swimming pool, we had mineral pools, and we did all the different therapies that could be done to assist us along with medication and proper nutrition to keep it. So I was there for a period of time, and you would stay there until you would have developed the strength where the braces could, you could wear your braces and you could walk in it. So when you have reached that stage where you can walk and manage yourself, you would be sent home. I remember going to the clinic one day, and Professor Golding said, "Oh, Professor was a doctor and a father. He was a father to us. He positioned himself really as a father to the inmate, the children who were there."
Hmm.
And I remember him saying to me, "You're going to be measured for your shoes and for your braces," and I was happy for that. And then when that happened, you would have to go fit it. You'd have to go learn to walk with it now. And so I started walking with two crutches, yes. And then I went to one and then none. And you
Oh,
had
so
to
okay,
learn to
so you move from two to one to none.
none, right? I was able now to walk with just my braces, and I did that for a number of years. I just started using back crutches in 2009, and that was when I did a surgery, and the doctor said I would need to support, so I started we're using my crutch. And
Okay.
I remember you had to go. You were taught now how to go up the step, how to come down. You were taught how to get into a car, how to get out, how to sit, how to put your braces on, how to take it off. All of those things, those you were taken on the outside to walk, and professor had to see that you were managing all of this before you actually would go home. While
Hmm.
I was there, however, I had the presence of my mother and my sisters. They visited me on a regular basis, more than once, more than twice for the week. But however, this was very traumatic for me
Hmm.
because each time they come
When they had
and
to leave you, right?
they are to leave, that was terror because I would scream and bawl. Even
Yeah.
now, when I go up there, those who are still alive and are there, they would say to me, "Carol, where is Sister Lynn? And where is Sister Daphne? And where is Mama?"
So
And I would say,
people are still at the rehab center now
yes,
from all
people
of
are
those
still
years.
there. People are still there who were there with me.
Wow. Wow.
And there is the Hope Valley, which is a residential area where some of them do live. And that's not far from there. That is after you pass the Huey and go down. There's a little Hope Valley. Some persons live there, others live off. I would cry. I used to scream and cry because I wanted to go home with them. And my mother was, I know she was saddened when I was crying. I remember one day she said to me, "If you cry, I'm not going to come back." because you're crying too much. And I said
Hmm.
to her, Mama, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. But
Until,
that was the
until she
beginning,
come again.
because I want her to come. But
Exactly, exactly.
and then when she said goodbye, I would cry. And I remember I was screaming and she walked out still. When she went to a distance and I cried, I said, Mama, come back for me, come back. You know, she turned back. She turned back and she came and she said, the bus is going to leave me because that time you had Clarendon coming from Kingston straight going down. That's the one that is going to drop her right where she at where we live. But when she came back the following day, she said to me, you know, the bus left me.
Oh.
And I said, I'm not going to cry again. So when she was leaving that particular day, I did not cry out loud.
That's putting it mildly. I,
Yeah, putting it
I
mildly.
didn't
I
I
didn't
didn't cry
cry
out
out
loud.
loud, but I cried. I didn't cry for her to see, but as she walked away, I cried.
Yeah,
My
understandable.
second sister, Sister Lynn, she had a way to do it that she would not hear me cry because she's always keeping back something in her bag. And then when she's ready to leave, she would say to me, oh, take this inside and put it in your drawer.
Hmm.
And I would jolly go and put it in the drawer. But when I come back, she was gone.
So at least you cry, but she didn't hear you cry.
Yeah, yeah, I cry. And she would tell me, say, if you cry, I'm not coming back. Because
Wow.
there were a number of children there who did not know their parents. Their parents did not come back to see them. Nobody visited them. A number of them called my mother Mama
Hmm.
because they really didn't see anybody.
So they were
Nobody.
like abandoned,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. I remember
Wow.
one day when I was about 15, I could go by myself now, and I was going. I stood by the bus stop at an Orange Street there. And a lady came on and she looked at me. She kept looking at me. She kept looking at me. And until I was a bit scared that why she's staring so much at me. But she said to me, what is your name? And I told her. And she said, oh, you're not my daughter. So I said, no, because I know my mother. And she said to me, I have a daughter at the center. I said, what's her name? And she told me the name. I said, but I know her. Her bed was actually beside my bed when I was there. And she said, I've never been back to see her. And when she was saying that to me, that girl was actually at Excelsior High School at the
Wow.
time, but she didn't know that.
Oh my goodness.
But and that's why I lift my hat to my mother and to my two sisters because they were there for me.
So there, I mean, I'm not going to dwell on that story because I'm sure you have a lot more that we want to talk about. But there have been many children or a number of children who is like, okay, like drop them off, left them, abandoned them, gone because they don't want the responsibility
Right.
or to be restrained. To wow, that is. I could see the double trauma in that as kids grow up and know that okay, I'm an abandoned child because of my illness.
But you would know, Dr. Beckford, that there are children in Jamaica or people in Jamaica. Once there was a disability, parents would keep them at home. They would hide them. They would not be proud of them. I think my family was proud of me.
Wow, and that in itself prevented the child from progressing
Yeah.
and achieving. And because looking at you or hearing your story now, I'm assuming just based on what I heard that you're a high achiever. Okay, so at what point did you not go back to the rehab center, or what trend did your life take then? Not
I still go back even now.
you still go back even now.
Yeah, I still go back even now because I've got to go to get my braces mended, or if it's broken to get it fixed, or if whatever, I still go back to see the doctor and so on. I remember after I got my braces and my shoes, and I did all that should be done. I remember going to the clinic that Tuesday. It was a Tuesday, yes. And I remember the the nurse saying to me as we were coming down from the clinic, she said to me, Carol, you're going to go home. So I said, really? And she said, yes, you're going home. Well, of course, to me, that was heaven.
Wow.
So when we got inside, I didn't want anything to eat. And she said, if you don't have your dinner, you're not going to go.
Uh-oh.
We will be sending for your mother to come for you. And well, I tried to eat and I shared my dinner so it would look like I had eaten everything. And I with the next day, nobody came the next day. Nobody came the next day. But the next day, somebody came. I saw my mother. When they come, they would sit under there's a shade tree and they would sit under that shade tree. So as I come down the ramp and I would see them. So I run to them. I mean, I literally run.
Wow.
I could run. I could skip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Because yes, when I was smaller and when I was smaller in age and when I was smaller in stature. Yeah. And I remember she's showing me the dress I'm going to wear to go home, and wow, it was just excitement and excitement and excitement. And I remember, to me, the bus looked like it took a year to get to Clarendon.
because you're anxious, you just want to.
I
Well, I
just
mean, you
wanted.
had no clue what the distance was,
I
just
don't know.
okay.
I don't know. And I remember going home there, and when I got to the crossroad, there were people out there waiting because people wanted to see Carol. People wanted to see me walk, and it was just excitement. And when I went home, I could interact with my family. And after that, I would go in and out, in and out, in and out, because my braces would break every minute. So I had to be going back and forth. And there were times when we had appointment cards. So you had to go back with on your appointment because Dr. Golden was very strict on that too.
I assume that sometimes they have to do adjustments as you
Yes, and they
grow and
have to
all
do,
of that
as
kind
you
of stuff.
grow taller,
Right,
they're going
right.
to do adjustments. They're going to look and measure your leg and see what's going on. And there are times when I go and I would be told, you're not going to go back home, you're going to be staying. Well, that again is another trauma because the crying starts, but it has to go that way.
How did you assess how did you assess that in terms of what my life is going to become? When did you take a pause and do introspection and say, okay, I did you consider yourself unfortunate, or how did you assess that situation for yourself? Did you say I was unfortunate, or I am going to be a fighter, I'm going to progress despite this?
I I think when I came home and when I started going to school, I went to a I first went to a school that was held by a retired teacher. Teacher All, he's now deceased. I didn't see I didn't feel any way then. And because of the bond of my family, my mother, my father was there for me too. My sisters, my cousins, I didn't feel different. I felt all right. I felt okay. I think I started to feel like I'm not worth anything when I started going to Mapen Primary School.
Okay.
When I went to Mapen Primary School, I went to grade three. That was the first. And I didn't spend a long time in grade three either because I had to go back to the hospital and I stayed there a little while. And when I came back, I went to grade four. But in grade three, I met a teacher who was a beautiful woman, Mrs. Marjorie Wolf.
Hmm.
She was like a mother to me. And she was very kind and she was very gentle and she shared she was just I didn't miss my family with her. But when I got to grade four, I was made to feel like I was nobody.
Wow.
And that was when I really, really felt bad. And I remember going into this grade four class. The teacher was stern. She was rough. She was not sympathetic.
We run into some of those every now and then, haven't we?
Yes. And apart from the fact that she was firm and she was rough and she wasn't sympathetic, she was abusive in her language. And she described me in all different kinds of ways.
Really?
Very derogatory, yes. And then that made me feel like, well, why am I living? And I don't think I shared this with many persons because I didn't know how to treat with it. I
Hmm.
remember one day she took us outside to play and they were jumping, putting up the bars and jumping over. And I stood because I know I couldn't do it. And when she said, your turn, and I said, I can't go over it. She said, you see how the little invalid picking you're not even gonna come off to nothing.
Wow.
And it's as if I sunk right down in the ground.
A teacher actually said that to you, knowing that the disability is not because of ambition. It is a disease. Were there any other kids in the classroom or in school at that time who had the same disability?
No, I was the only one.
Oh wow.
I was the only one.
When I was in grade 2, 3, there was a classmate actually sat next to me who that's the only guy that I knew in school who had the poliomyelitis, as they call it. I don't remember there was anybody else in class, so that was kind of strange that only one person I know, and then you only knew yourself. So
Yeah, I only knew.
how did you handle that? Um,
I cried. I cried that day. I really, really cried. And while I was crying, she said to me, oh, shut your mouth.
really?
And I tried to not to, but I did.
Wow.
And I remember when I went home, I said, Mama, I don't want to go back to that school. Take me back to Kingston. And my mother said to me, you're going back. And she said to me, you're going to come after something
Wow.
because I didn't bring a child that was sick into the world. You
Hmm.
got sick, and I'm going to do my best to make you live, and I'm going to care for you.
God bless your
Well,
mama.
that brought some amount of comfort, but when I think of going back to her class the next day, it was hard. It was very hard. I don't think she knew what I knew because I didn't take up my book for her to mark it. I didn't raise my hand if she asked a question because I was just afraid of her. I remember when we were coming, when we were while we were at Mona, Dr. Golden would say to us, when you go home and when you go to school, do and when they are giving polar shots, do not take any. Don't take any. Tell your teacher, don't take any. You're not to take any. And I remember one day the nurses came, the public health nurses came and they were giving polio shots. And she said, I sat, I didn't get up. And she said, get in the line. And I said, I'm not supposed to take polio shots. Dr. Golden said, we're not supposed to take it. And she said, get in the line. And I got up, I
Wow.
went in the line, and I got the shot. Of
Wow.
course, when I got the shot, I felt like I was gonna faint, and I just sat on the bench. She didn't say anything. That's so hard. So she made me to feel like I was nothing.
So that's the same teacher still to get in the line?
Yes, yes, the
She was an
same
evil
one.
she was an evil woman.
Yeah, the same one.
Heartless. Wow.
She did me some terrible things. Yeah, I remember
Wow.
her. But you know, Dr. Bedford, can I tell you? When I left there, when I went to Vera Technical, when I went to college, I met her at the
Really?
first teachers meeting I went to.
Really?
Yeah, I met her. And when I met her, when I walked into that room that day, two friends of mine, we walked into the room. We are going to the first teachers meeting we were going to. I saw these chairs. There were two bags on two chairs, and there are some chairs over there. So I went and I sat down. and my friends sat and they said they wanted juice, so one of them went for the juice. And then I saw these two ladies coming, and I touched my friend and I said, I know that lady. I know that lady. She was my grade 4 teacher. And she
Wow.
came and then she looked at me and she said, "Is this Carol?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Stand up." I stood. She said, "Wow, what a lovely girl you have turned to be.
Wow.
And what are you doing?" And I said, "Actually, I'm a trained teacher now." And she started to show off on the other teacher that was
Uh-huh.
there. Oh, this student, she was a student in my class in grade 4 at maybe in primary school. And Dr. Beckford, believe you me, I wanted to really tear her to pieces
So
right
she
there.
wants some credit for your
Yeah.
achievement when
I
she.
wanted to say to her, "Don't speak." But there was something on the inside which says, "Just
Yeah.
be quiet.
Yeah.
Just be
Yeah.
quiet." And
Let her heart eat her out
yeah,
on the
and she was
inside.
there gloating, and every next person she saw, she was saying, "Oh, this is my student, it's my student." And every time she said that, I was, I was torn because I remember clearly. And as I said to my friend, I said, "Look here, just like, oh, I remember, she remembers too."
She sure remember because she remember, oh, you were in my class. You remember? Wow. Okay, so you're progressing. You're making
Yeah, I'm
strides.
progressing.
You
Yes,
are
I
you're
made
you're
strides.
progressing on. You're going to high school. You make it to college. You achieve certification as a teacher. All right. So tell me if you can, how did your life unfold in that time as you move from into adulthood, as you, well, teenagers, teenage come with challenges, young people
Yeah.
trying to identify themselves, trying to fit into the normal world. How do you figure where Carol fits into a society as, pursuing education? Actually, what were your goals or dreams? At what point did you decide you want to become a teacher?
From I know myself,
I mean, know yourself.
I wanted to become a teacher. I used to teach the trees and the flowers. I used to teach my
Ah,
pillow. Yeah. I had a
every
pillow. I had a pillow that my brother named Patsal. And I used to,
everybody that I talk to on this program who have become preachers, ministers, etc. They preach and teach trees and chickens and all of that stuff. And so tell me something that you can remember
and
that were one of the
it's
lessons
not
that you
only
taught.
those I used to teach. I used to gather children in the community, like in the holidays, and I used to teach them. And I love children, so everybody has a baby, I would be attached to that baby. I have
Wow.
taken a number of babies to church to be christened, like I am their mother. I love children. I
Wow.
used to teach them, and there were some parents who would carry their children come, and during the summer holidays I would have class, I would teach. And when it is coming to the end, we'd buy bread and cheese and make lemonade, and we have breaking up and all of those things. I love teaching, and I used to teach. I think I cannot tell you of another profession that I said I would go on.
So you're born to be a teacher. That
Yes, I
was.
think I was born to be a teacher.
Okay, all right. So you have become what you thought you were born to become. All right. So you achieved your goal. All right. So tell me at what point did you become a Christian? At what point Carol become a Christian, and what was that journey like? What was your church life like as you become a Christian? Tell me about the beginning
Carol was a
stage of it.
rugged
Going,
girl,
Carol
Carol
was a
was a
what?
rugged girl. I was never a quiet
Oh really? Oh
person.
really? Was she?
No, she wasn't a quiet person. I was very feisty, as
So she,
Jamaican people would say. I
yeah,
would
we
tell
know
you,
what that means.
I'm not afraid. I cannot fight, but I can fight with my mouth.
So the
So I
mouth
would
did the mouth did
argue.
the job.
Yeah, I would argue, and nobody would get away. If you trouble me, I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. I'm not
Oh
afraid.
wow.
And if they trouble me to the extent where I can manage them, I'm going to tell my two sisters about how they troubling me. And if I tell my mother would say, "Don't worry yourself." But if I tell my sisters, they will defend me. They are going to go out and tell them, say, don't trouble her. When you see her, don't trouble her. So, and I was very, but I was also very sad on the inside
Do you
because, as
think
you asked
I'm not
earlier,
I want to cut you, hold your point, but do you think that the disability was a contributing factor to uh, your temper or your approach to response to people because what I know is that people with disabilities or limitations for whatever cause ha, kind of a bit more aggressive sometimes growing up because they think that
yeah,
they are being targeted.
yes, they targets. You become targets in many more than one ways. One, you become a sex target because people feel that they
Wow.
can just use you or they should use
Really?
you, and they are going to make their attempts at you, and you have to fight your way out of that. You have
I'm a
to.
little
You
surprised at that
definitely have
one,
to
but
be.
I'm hearing you. I'm a little surprised at that one. But so maybe those people are kind of heartless, like your fourth grade
Yes,
teacher.
yes, yes. They would say things to you that you know that they are going after you. I can give you an example. I remember one day I was going to Maypin and I was standing out by the crossroad waiting on the bus, and this gentleman drove up. I knew him very well. I knew him very well. And he drove up and he stopped and he said, Miss Peters, where are you going? And I said, I'm going to Maypen. And he said, can I offer you a ride? I don't know what came in my head, but I said, no, I'm going to wait on the bus. And the man looked at me and he said, if you had ever come into this car,
Wow,
I would take you and I'd rape you.
wow. He
And I
actually
said,
said that to you.
and I said, you would not live to see another day if you did it. And he drove off.
Wow.
And there are several other persons who have made their attempts, and I know that they would want to hurt you. They feel they can use you and abuse you. And I say to people all the while, I do not want you to be sorry for me. I don't want your sympathy. I just want you to understand that what you can do easily, I might have a challenge doing it. So just understand my situation. When you can when I bought insurance, the agent would say to me, Carol, when other persons can jump over the fence in case of a problem, you can't, so your premiums will be higher. I said,
Hmm.
yes, I understand. I don't want you to be sorry for me, but I don't want you to try to abuse me either. No, don't do it, because if you do, I'm fighting
So
for
so
survival.
that's what I thought, that the part of the aggression comes from defending yourself and protecting
Yes.
yourself from would be predators. All right. So tell me a little bit more about the aggressive Carol. When did that change? What was one of your worst experience or reaction during that time of your aggression? Tell me something you can remember that really got you over the edge, that you had to respond or retaliate in a way that you say, "Wow, that was even beyond me."
I remember when I and my family on the line might be hearing this for the first time. I remember when I got the scholarship to Vera Technical High School. I was not in my district. I was spending holiday with a principal in another joining district, Gravel Hill, and my uncle-in-law came for me. And I went to the school the following day. That's my old school, to collect my recommendation and the different documents that I would need to take to Vera Technical. When I got there in the morning, the principal was not there as yet. There was one male teacher who came on, and when he came on, he said, "Oh, Carol, congratulations." I said, "Thank you." And he said, "You're waiting on the principal." I said, "Yes, I'm waiting on him." And he said to me, "Oh, you really gonna stand here?" Because that school was in a volatile area on Seventh Road. So it was just one entrance in, one entrance out. It was walled around. And I said, "Yes, I will." He said, "No, you don't have to stand. You can come and sit in my office and help me mark these papers." Of course, as I wasn't thinking anything. And I
How old were you then?
at that time
About?
I was 15.
Okay.
And I went into the office sat down on the stool, gave me a pen and some papers on the mark scheme to mark, and I was marking. And he came behind me and held on to my breast, and he said, "Oh, I am going to sample you today."
Wow.
And I said to him, "And if you sample me, you're a dead man."
Wow.
He didn't know I was serious, but I was aggressive and I was determined to preserve myself.
Wow.
And I looked around. He walked away and he went inside another room. And I looked and I picked up a piece of board. And when he came back to me, I said, "I will kill you stone dead right here." And I started to cry. And as I cried, I screamed. And there were some groundsmen on the, and they ran to my rescue and
Wow.
came out. And when the principal came shortly after that, his wife was with him. And she said to me, "Carol, what is wrong with you?" And I was
Interesting.
just crying. And she said to me, "Come." She took me into the staff room. She sat me down and she asked me what went on. And I told her. And I said, "Miss, I'm going to kill him." And she said, "No, don't do anything that's wrong." She called her husband, told him, and he called it. He went for him. And he told him, "I'm not going to keep you. You're going to finish your job for the end of August. Choose another job. Find
Oh,
another."
so they let him go. Wow. Wow.
I think that day in my life was a day when I think I would kill and murder,
Wow.
because you were trying to, I'm already a disabled person. You were trying to put me in a situation that would make matters worse.
That's
And I
abuse, right?
and that is abuse.
My
That is
friends,
abuse.
I'm talking to Sister Carole Peters, and she has a story, and we're just beginning. This is only the early stages of her life, and had some experiences already. And I can't wait to see to hear what her journey has been like. Good time for you to hit your share button and invite your friends and family to join us, because her story is going to be one of inspiration. All right, tell me now, as you move on to the next stage in your life. How did Tell me about the Christian part now, because I haven't heard it about where the Christian part came in with this young aggressive lady. What was church experience? How did that impact your life? What was it like? The experience. Who led you to took you to? How did you get there?
I didn't miss church. I would go to church. As a matter of fact, my mother, though not a Christian, she wasn't a Christian then. She made sure that every child who stays with her have to go to church. We have to go to church.
Most Jamaican
Yeah,
mothers back
we
then,
have to.
send them to
I
Sunday
we
school
used
with
to
nails
go
and
to
bell.
we used to go to the United Brethren Church in the morning for Sunday school, and we stay for church, and church finish about 11, and we would leave and we go down to Sister Lynn or down to Sister Daphne, and we would go back to Baptist Sunday School. So we went to church. And later on, we went to Church of God, and we had to go to church. I loved going to church. Yes, I love church. And we all had a Bible. My mother gave me a Bible, had a Bible, and my favorite passage was Psalm 23.
Uh oh.
Don't know if I understood all that it said, but I know, and that was a psalm I loved. And I still love it. It's still my favorite
Until
passage in the Bible.
today.
So I would go to church. I was afraid of, no matter how I'm bad. I used to get a lot of beating. My mother used to beat me a lot because I was faced, as I said before, and I'm going to argue with people, and they are going to tell her, and she's going to beat me. And but as she finished beating me, and
Then
I
right
go on
back
the
to
road
you.
and I say, if it's you, I say, "You, Dr. Beckford, you gonna make mama beat me," and I'm going to tell you off again. So
So were you a stubborn child as well, rebellious, stubborn, or
yeah, I
just
think I
feisty?
was. I think I was. And so, but I was afraid of lightning and thunder. So
Uh-oh.
anytime that starts, I'm a very sober child, and you can tell me anything and do me anything that time because I don't want. I'm afraid of the lightning and thunder, and I don't want to go to hell.
Oh Lord have mercy.
So,
So you thought
so
the
and
light and
I'm
thunder
afraid,
would
so
kill you.
I dash for the bed under the bed, and then sometimes Mama would say, "All right, the lightning and thunder soon come." But
Oh my
so
goodness.
I was like, but I went to when I went to church. I took part. The only thing I didn't do at Sunday school, I didn't say a recitation. I'm not going up there to say a recitation. I'm not going to sing anything. But I know my memory verses, and I was a leader, so I led the group. If I say to them, we are not saying any memory verse today, we're just not saying any memory verse. So we all not saying any memory verse, and you know what? The people at the church, they knew me, and they loved me, and they always encouraged me, talk to me, Carol, you must become a Christian. I would say when I am ready.
Wow.
I'm not ready yet.
So you were tough even then. You were still like, okay. So what
I wasn't a
what
softie. I wasn't a softie. I remember that Sunday evening, those days we wore this kind of material that is called Trabalco, and you had to starch it stiff and make the pleats stand up. When I was finished with my uniform, it could stand.
I remember
And I
those.
remember I had it out on the outside for the dew to fall on it. And my little brother, my younger brother, took this something of water and wet it up.
Oh oh.
And threw a stone at him.
Oh oh.
If that had caught him, he would be dead.
Oh
And my mother
wow.
was sitting on the veranda there, and Mama said, I don't know. If you were born in the hospital, I would think it's swap and swap it because I don't know where you come from, stay so. And she said, I don't know why when I carry you go up to the hospital, I never leave you like I see other people leave. And I was in a rage. That never help me.
I know, and I know she wasn't serious, but she just
No,
want you
I
to
don't
calm
think so.
down.
But
She
I
just want
think
you
she
to,
was
she just want you to calm
frustrated.
down. Yeah, exactly,
And
exactly.
there was this young lady who was neighbor to us. We lived in the same big yard. And she came along and she said, Miss Lucille, may I go to church? They might have feet washing and lots, but me can carry Carol. And she said, yes, carry her, go on. And I went with her. Now, my mother's friend was a hairdresser, and she had just done my hair the evening. And I used to fix it up for school next morning. And when I went down to church, there was this pastor who always troubling people and said, you need to get saved, you need to get saved. And he came and had his hand in me. I said, listen, me, take your hand out my head and don't pull up my head.
Wow.
And he said, come, let's go inside. I said, I'm not ready. I'm not going in there. Waiting on my friends. And my friends came and we went in and sat down. I cannot tell you what was the passage they read, what was the message that was preached. But I know I sat there and I just felt like all hope is gone.
Hmm.
I felt helpless. I felt hopeless. And they started singing this song. I came to Jesus as I was,
Weary.
weary, worn, and sad. I
Found in
found in
him.
him a resting place,
He's made me
and he
glad.
has made me glad. And the pastor just kept singing it. And the more he sang, is the more I felt like I was sinking.
Wow.
The more he sang, is the more I felt I was sinking. I was just like, I was going down, down, down. And it's like there was this person looking straight at me on the platform. I didn't see anybody, but it's like I just imagined the eyes looking down on me. And I started to cry. I don't know where the tears came from. And I've never gone to an altar. Never. Although I go to church so often and everybody is going to the altar when they make altar call. I have never gone.
So you're really a tough girl.
I was fighting for survival.
Wow.
And I sat there and a church sister walked over to me. And she hugged me and she said, "Would you love to be saved?" And I nodded my head.
Wow.
And she held my hand and she led me to the altar. I, even now, I cannot explain what transpired there. I felt love. I felt warmth. I felt an understanding. I
Wow.
can't explain it. I don't know if I can explain it. But I know I cried and I cried and I cried. And she was there praying for me, praying for me. And I cried, I cried, I
Did you feel like it was the person who loved you, or you felt like it was God who loved you? Which one? Or a
I felt it was
combination?
God. I
That
felt
it
it
was
was God.
God.
This was not a human,
Okay.
um,
Okay.
this was not the human part. And I, when I got up from the altar, I went home. I walked home in silence. I walked home and I went to bed. I woke up the next morning and I went to school. When I went to school, I just, my eyes were not dry, they were wet. And I was quiet. I wasn't, I wasn't the rowdy girl anymore. Because the least thing you said to me, I was upset. Because I just thought you were going to hit me
Hmm.
again with something I
Hmm.
don't want to hear. But my form teacher was a Christian. And when she was calling the register that morning, I didn't answer to my name. And she said, "What is wrong with Carol this morning?" And the children said, "Miss, she got altar last night." And she walked, she walked down to me and she hugged me and she rested my head on her breast. And I started crying.
That's
I
exactly
just
how they're
started
gonna say it.
crying.
Miss, she got to altar last night. That's all they know happened. They just know
That's all they
they
know.
know about the chain, but no, she
And
went to
she
altar
said
last
to
night.
me, she said to me, "Carol, God is gonna take care of you."
Wow.
And I said to her, "Miss, can I go home?" She said, "You want to go home?" I said, "Yes, I want to go home. I didn't want to stay at school." And she said, "I cannot send you by yourself. I'd have to walk you out to the clock and put you on the bus." And she did that. And I went home and I went straight down to the church because I knew they were having a meeting. The ministers were meeting. I walked right into that meeting and I was crying. And they prayed for me again. And that was the start of my journey.
Wow.
It has not been a smooth one. It has not been one that I can tell you that I've been I've been the best person. But I struggled and I've grown. One thing I know, I didn't want to go back. Uh-uh. My first testimony was, "I'll be a woman for God."
The thing about that part of your life is that all of us are your company. You know, we are all in the same boat. We all are in the same boat. And if anybody tell you otherwise, tell them they're faking it. They're not real. We've all been there, done that. We all had our struggles. We all our ups and downs. We all stumbled and fall and get up and move again. So that is just the normal human journey. Normal human journey. But thank God for extended grace. All right,
Yeah.
so tell me a little bit about Carol's church life now in the early days of her church. What were the challenges, and what are some of the situations in your church life that you still stumble over remembering or thinking about some of those life experiences as church, because sometimes we expect that everything good should happen at church, and church not always happen good at church. So um, tell us whatever you would like to tell us about your church life experience growing up as a young girl, etc., etc.
Yeah, I thought church was perfect, to be honest. I thought it was a haven. I thought you would not experience anything that is bad or anything that is wrong. I didn't know you'd face upon disappointments and whatever. I didn't know that. I
You learn
didn't
the
know.
hard way.
So I learned the hard way. I went to church. I did one thing I know. I wanted to be committed. I didn't want to be in and out and in and out and whatever. I made it clear wherever I went, whatever I did, I made it known I'm a Christian. So even when I went to high school, I went to high school as a Christian. I lived a Christian life. And with all the challenges that came up and with all that happened, I wanted to maintain my sanity and I wanted to maintain my Christian walk.
Mm-hmm.
When I met upon some things in the church, I was flabbergasted. I was left to wonder what is this, and so I started talking. I met upon things where persons were not pure in their thoughts, they were not pure in their actions, they were not pure in their behavior, and they made advances. They did things that I think is a sin. That Christian mustn't get involved in those things, and I was, as usual, going to speak my mind. And I'm going to say, I don't think as a Christian it means that you must be a dummy. You must stand up for what is right. So some some areas I didn't like the invasion.
So you can say I'm not a Christian dummy, okay? I'm not a Christian
Right.
dummy. Okay, all
So
right.
I spoke out. When
Okay.
I did, I was, wow, I became the wickedest person. I became the bad one. I became the rebellionist. I became the one that was not humble. I became the one that wanted. At one time, I heard that I was conspiring to overthrow my leader. Yes. And when I said conspire to overthrow, what does that mean? And so I was called upon a number of times, called in and judged. And there were times when I stood, Dr. Beckford, I didn't speak, I didn't say anything. And there were times when I would speak out. And I remember this particular time when we had a convention and a list of names were called out to meet right after that midday service, and I was among the number. And then when I went, I was a culprit.
Uh-oh.
I was the one who was disrespectful. I didn't have any manners to the leader. I I spoke in a derogatory way to him and whatever. But in that meeting, of all the persons that were there, leaders and the rest of it, no, not one person asked, what did she say? What did she do? Nobody. Nobody. And then I was asked to pray. So, well, I don't know what to pray about. 'Cause I know I'm not guilty of any of that. So I did not pray. And they prayed for me. The thing is my family was here from Canada. So I went home and I decided, no, this is time. I said, I'm not going back to church. No, I'm not going back. I didn't tell anybody. I just decided, my man, I said, you know something, I'm not going back because this thing looked like not for me at all. And I'm
Mm.
not going to take this. But a friend came and he said to me, Carol, come. If you don't come, you're going to look like you go wrong. So come to church tonight. And I went. And I just decided, my man, I said, well, when I went to that altar, it wasn't a man who called me. It was God himself who called me. And I said, I'm not going to backslide. Whatever it takes, I'm going to make it. And I remember one day, Dr. Beckford, we were having a congregational fast, and I heard the pastor spoke some things about me from the platform. I was mad. And I just took up my bag, took up my Bible, and I just walked right out. And as I walked out and I was going along the side, I heard a voice. And the voice said, who called you? Who saved you? And I stopped. I always say that is my Damascus road.
Mm.
I stopped and I turned back. And I just went in at the side and I sat down. and the road became rather rough. I was isolated, left alone. Few people would talk to me. But
So you,
one thing I know, our church mother said to me, she said, Carol, you must go to heaven. And she said, whatever it takes, you must go. 1978, my mother was in Canada. And I remember that morning, Monday morning, I knelt down right at her bedside and I said, God, you call me. And if you want me to go to heaven, you have to move me from here. Move me, God, move me. I don't know where you're going to put me, but move me. And by the January, I got a job in another parish and I moved from there. Things turned around because I went to live with my church mother and a darling woman. She's gone home to be with the Lord. And I remember she was such a mother. And things I walked with for 10 years, 12 years over, that were eating me out and made me sad. I remember I could tell her, I told it to her, she prayed for me, she counseled me, and I said to her, make me a promise, don't tell anybody, let it be between us. And she did. And even the day, even the week when she was ill, I remember before she went in the hospital, she died 2011. She said to me, Carol, you must go to heaven. And she said, I want to meet you there. And I started crying. And she said, don't cry. God is going to take care of you even when I'm gone. He's going to take care of you. And
wow.
I said, yes.
I'm talking to Sister Carole Peters, and it's a good time that you can hit your share button and invite others to join us. And I know she's very diplomatic, and I understand she's very diplomatic, and you can sense that she's not saying something that she don't want to say for different reasons. But there's a saying that if all the truth would be known, there'd be no peace, right? So some things we kind of mull around the edges, but yes, some of what she's, you know, maybe one of these days she'll feel the freedom. One of these
Yeah.
days she'll feel the
One of
freedom.
these days I will,
One of
but
these
not.
days she'll feel the freedom to open it out and put it on the front page. But for right now, she's being diplomatic, and and I'm just kind of popping words for her because she's diplomatic. She spent 10 years, as she said, 10 years of real struggle, fighting battles that she shouldn't be fighting, and shouldn't be fighting with the kind of people she was fighting with. So I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave it at that. All right. So now you get out of this environment. This is guys use a good word. By the way, let me ask you back about the preacher going to the platform and preaching things. You said the preacher actually called your name or
Yeah.
directly.
Called my name directly. And that is why if I go to church, Bishop, I say it. I even said it to a friend of mine not very long ago. I say, anytime I go to church and when I become the topic for the message, I'm going to walk out. The preachers must get their message
Hmm.
and preach the word of God. Don't preach me because I'm not God. Don't preach about me because it is irksome, it is painful, and I don't think I don't think it's fair to go up there and just call out your name. It wasn't anything complimentary. No, it wasn't.
I've heard people target people because of they know about situation and preaching and preach from platform. It is kind of strange to even make mention of people's name. That is
My
as
name.
low down as a preacher could get. In my word, that's as low down as a preacher could get by. targeting people from the platform, calling their names, and defaming them or whatever the target was. As somebody's here, that was killing the sheep, and the pastor's responsibility is to feed the sheep and not to kill the
Mhm.
sheep. And unfortunately, many of us go to the platform to kill sheep because we think it's
Yeah.
a safe place to go and destroy people's lives. And but I'm going to leave it at that. Tell me, share your story. Tell us how did you deal with that? How did you get a reaction from somebody? Anybody said, this is how he she is, and
Yeah.
how did the people respond to that?
Persons, persons were hurt. Persons were hurt, and persons shared it with me, and they said, "Carl, I know how you felt. I know because I know that's not the situation. I know how you felt, and but I'm asking you, just don't go away." And I became resentful. Yes, I became resentful. Yes, I resented the individual. Really, really resented the individual. I would try to avoid, getting near, not to say anything, just to be quiet. And even when I'm quiet and I don't say anything, I'm still criticized for. But I continued doing what I had to do. I continued being a Sunday school teacher. I continued being the Sunday school superintendent. I continued being the director of the projects that were there because I had those positions. I continued to do what I had to do, worked with the hospitality section. I continued, I did some amount of catering, I sewed, and if there was anything to be done, I did it. I worked, I labored. Yeah. But not
Wow,
recognized. But I took it that whatever I was doing it for the Lord.
wow,
So amidst the different things that were being done and said, and I was sidelined, and everything, I became an example.
hmm.
And even though some persons will say to me, "Boy, Carl, I never know those were the things you were going through," and I say, "Yes, but you people didn't take time to find out. You just thought I was just bad, and I wasn't all that bad." And when I came to the Zoom room, and that second presentation I heard on unforgiveness, Dr. Beckford, I know I was torn in pieces because I know there were so many persons that I held
Hmm.
accountable,
Wow,
and couldn't see where I could really forgive them. But I have learned, and I have forgiven them. I remember one person died, and I said to myself, then how am I going to forgive this person? Him dead now. I spoke to my counselor, and she said to me, just write a letter of all the hurts that you have inside against him. And whatever you're going to do it, whether you're going to cut it up with a scissors or you're going to burn it with fire, do something. And she said, just ask God to forgive you. And she went through some sessions with me, and I think I've overcome. If I see that person now, I'll be all right. I'll be okay. I'll be okay.
so
There are persons who,
the person is dead and gone.
yes, he's gone. But there are persons who I've called and said, look here, you did me so and so and so, and I held it for long, but I have forgiven you.
Hmm. Wow.
Yes, I've reached that stage because I don't think as human beings we should really allow people to make us prisoners of unforgiveness. Yes, so I
Wow.
I go that way.
Let me say, as you said earlier, a church is normally designed to be a safe haven, a place of comfort, consolation, hope, where the weary find comfort, where the weak get strength, where the lonely find get consolation. Unfortunately, church does the opposite of what it's supposed to do many times. And I find that preachers or preachers in general, and pastors for that, uh, inclusive, when they do not have a word, when they do not have the word to preach, then they target people. um, I think we do our congregation an injustice when we do not have the word to share with people, to give them life, because there's life and death in the power of the tongue. And I'm not going to preach on that, but it is unfortunate. I think every preacher, every pastor should be prepared to preach the word of God, and let a man examine himself based on what he hears in the word. If it meets him where his needs are, I need to make adjustment. But one should never use the church, the platform, to target people, and to abuse them from the platform. I don't know. Somebody said that, shepherds supposed to feed sheep. They're not supposed to eat the sheep. But some of us are sheep eaters, unfortunately, and some of us are sheep killers. But unfortunate, and the story goes along the line in so many ways. All right, but you overcame that, and tell me
Well,
where
I stayed in that church until 1995. Yeah, there was an upheaval in there,
Hmm.
and when I saw what was going on, I decided. I said, "Well, mm-mm, I don't think I'm going to stay here. I'm not going to backslide. I'm not going to turn away, but I don't think I'm going to stay here." So I stopped going to church, and I decided I was going to stay home. And it was during the Easter season that I stopped. And I remember Easter Sunday. I was living on the school campus. And my principal, being a Christian, she said to me, I was telling her some of what the things that were going on, and what I was experiencing. And she said to me, "Okay, come to church with me." And I said, "No, I'm not coming to church with you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay, and I'm going to deal with God. I'm going to find out what's going on, what's happening." And I remember that Sunday morning, I sat on my bed. It was a studio flat, and my television was on, and Dr. Harold Blair, Bishop Harold Blair, was preaching. And he said, "You have decided." Just you are looking at me, Bishop. That's how I think he was looking at me. He said, "You have decided not to go back to church because of what is happening." He doesn't know anything about me. He don't even know me. But you're going to burn. Your heart is going to burn. But stay right where you are. God is going to lead you. And I started to cry. I cried
Wow.
and I cried and I cried. I said, "God, you going to lead me? Please do. Please lead me." And he did. He led me to where I am now. I went to this other church. I didn't explain anything to the pastor. It's somebody I knew, and I think he knew what was going on. And I didn't tell him what was, I said to him, "Sir, I just want to be here." And he said, "Be comfortable." And that was my haven again. And I'm not saying there are not problems, but I've not encountered that kind of problems that I was encountering. It's weird. So I made myself comfortable, and I'm having good fellowship, and I'm enjoying the Lord, and I'm growing where I am.
The experiences my sister had in church, she should never have them. That's all I'm gonna say to you, based on our offline conversation. Some experiences she had in church, she should never have had them, and it is so unfortunate because um, when you should be the protector and you're the predator
Before,
instead of when you should be the protector but you are the predator, that is so unfortunate. But thank God for mercy and grace, and that God actually called you for a purpose.
Yeah, I
And
know.
in spite of or despite the challenges and the circumstances that were intended to derail you, you still kept your head down and you continue to go forward. So I'm assuming that is part of the, some of the challenges, the life challenges that you're talking about. What other challenge that you want to tell us about that? Okay, some of my real challenges are other type of challenges.
Some of my other challenges was when I went to college. When I went to college, I thought I was ready for college. Yes, I think academically I was ready, but I don't think psychologically I was ready, because I know I was looking at myself and I was
Hmm.
saying, how am I going to go out there and teach the children? They are going to be looking at me. They're not going to learn. They're going to be looking at me, my physical.
Hmm.
So that was a challenge. So when it was first year teaching practice, we had a week to prepare. I decided, I said, I'm going home and I'm not going back. So
Hmm.
I went home Friday evening and I said to my mother, Mama, don't tell anybody I'm here. Don't tell anybody I'm here. And I said to her, I'm not going back to college. And she said, why? And I started telling her. And she said, Carol, you come far. You can't stop here, so you can't stop. I I I could see her concern and all the rest of it. And she said to me, so where you gonna tell Lindsay, or where that's my sister in Canada. Where you gonna tell Lloyd say, where you gonna tell him say? I said, me I tell him say me now go back. But a friend visited this Saturday and said to me, Carol, take courage and go back. And I went back. I went on teaching practice. The school I was sent, those children had no time to look at me. They wanted a teacher.
Hmm.
They wanted a teacher. And because it's a rural school, and it's like they were just left there. You can see that they were hungry for something. And I did my job, did it very well. I got some very good assessments. And then now I was plucked up to go on. Yeah, I moved on. When I was finished and I went on internship, I went to one of the schools in a volatile area, and the principal himself don't even really know what he was about. But he had a liking for me. And so I could talk to him and I would say, sir, so you're not doing it right, you're not doing it. And he would listen to me. And I did well. That was a challenge though, because with your assessments to be done and the school is not disciplined and all the rest of it, was really a big challenge. But I managed to go through. And my internal supervisor comforted me because I wanted to move. I said, move me, man. I can't do it here. And she said to me, Carol, you know something? You don't stay in a good situation and make good, You stay in a bad situation and make good. So stay here, and I bet you're going to make it. And she was there with she really assisted me. And so although it was so challenging, so much in discipline, and it was hard. The class I got my external assessment with was a grade 8-8. They were the slowest
Wow.
and weakest set. But I figured when I knew I was going to be assessed today, I said, these children love to cook, because my areas are food and nutrition management and clothing. So I said they love to cook. So something, I'm going to do a cake making class, and I did it. And we made rock buns, and the children were so attentive, and they did a good job, and the assessors were pleased. And when the class was finished, um, Dr. Errol Miller was one of the assessors, and he came to me and he said, we have all five of us are sitting here, and We cannot come to a grade for you. We just cannot come to a grade for you. So you know what? We're coming back this afternoon. But it's not the same team. Another team is coming so we can have a consensus on your grade. And I said, but I don't have another class today. They said, we'll talk to the principal. They spoke to the principal and they organized a class. And I taught that class again. And I overcome that challenge.
Wow.
Yeah, I got a good grade. I got a distinction for internship.
Wow.
So though it was so challenging, I overcome the challenge and
Good.
I felt good.
Good for you. I am talking to Sister Carole Peters, and I again, I can't make her say what she don't want to say, but I, I wish you could see in the crystal ball. You could see in the crystal ball of her mind some of the things that she not saying, but we're enjoying talking to you. Um, Tell me about the psychological effect now, of your disability. How has that impacted your life in adulthood, if it has, or you have grown past it, or how do you sometimes do an assessment of it, a reflection, processing, how do you deal with that now as a grown woman, looking at life from different angles? How do you process it?
I don't sit and mope over it, Bishop. One of the first things I think I have accepted it. I've accepted my disability as I said earlier. I don't require sympathy. I
Right.
require understanding. So I don't sit and mope and oh Lord, I do everything for myself. So I go about my business. I do what I have to do. And sometimes when I do it, people would say, "Oh, you manage it, man. Why don't make somebody else do it?" I said, "No, I prefer to do it myself." So I don't sit and I don't put myself in a pity party and I don't put myself in a rocking chair and saying, "Oh Lord, I wonder why this happened to me and why that happened to me and why that." No, 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 no. I see myself as an individual. I see myself as a person who is able to otherwise. I see myself that I can make and I have made an impact on society.
Hmm.
I see my children that I have taught over the years. I see them being placed strategically in the world. They are doing very well. And they can look back and they say, Miss, so and so, Miss, you remember when you did this, when you said that. I said to a student once, look in the palm of your hand. What do you see? I said, your future lies there. I look at myself, so I don't go and get sorry for myself. When I went to the seminary, I got a flat on the ground floor, and a lady decided, well, she was going to fight for it, and she eventually got it. And I had to go on the third floor to live, and they didn't have an elevator. And I
Hmm.
lived on the third floor for the 2 years, 3 years, yes. And I wasn't sorry for myself. I went there and I was comfortable. And whatever you can do, you can run, I can use my brain.
Ha 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 ha.
So I'm gonna use my brain. You can skip, I'm gonna use my brain. So I
All
use
right.
my
All
brain.
right.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
so I don't get sorry for myself. I see that I can move on, and I see where I can be an inspiration to other persons. So many persons have said, "Girl, you inspire me," because when I see you go forward, I have to tell myself, say, if Carol can do it, I can do it too.
Amen. Amen.
So I see myself as that person. I don't see myself being sorry. And I look back at it and I say, well, I said it the other day in the Zoom room too. Persons would say to me, Carl, why are you not married?
I
That
was
is a
I was
big
I was about to touch on
that
that
is
because
a
I was
big
about to touch on that
story.
as I heard it.
I say, persons have offered to marry me, yes. But I say to myself, I will be foolhardy to see what happened to my counterparts and go down that same road. I say, God, if you have a man for me, then you're going to show me that man. I'm going to know that is it. I'm not going to be fooled by your fancies and oh, I love you and you're a beautiful girl. I've heard that. You're a beautiful girl. I'll marry you, and you are smart and you are intelligent. Yes, all of that. But when the rubber touched the ground, I want to know: will you care for me? Will you understand my disability? Will you understand my challenges? Will you be there for me? Will you just use and abuse me? So I have said no for one reason. Two, I remember Professor Golding saying to us that I'm not telling you guys you mustn't get married, but remember your physical frame, your husband will want children, and your physical frame can be compromised and you can get very, very sick. I've seen some of my counterparts have children and when they could walk up and down, they are now in a wheelchair because of what has happened to them.
Mm.
So I say if I have a profession and God will take care of me and I can work, I don't see why I should put myself through that trauma. So I don't mope about, well, I'm not married. I want to be married. I don't mope about that. I don't mope about
I actually heard your response to making myself they talk about the ministry of celibacy that I was talking
it.
about that
Yeah.
it's okay I've made a choice or unless or until I made a choice of celibacy for now unless God deliberately made a move on that I'm assuming that if God even said that you're gonna be like Gideon, right?
I would test it.
You're gonna put the wool fleece out tonight,
Yes,
and then
yes.
and then
I would test it. I
because
would test
you gotta prove it in two or three different ways. So Lord, if you're listening, and you have a plan, just know that Sister Carol gonna put you to maybe a triple test to make sure that she has no doubt in her mind when it's all over. Oh my God! Oh my God! What would you say is your biggest challenge now as a person? What's your biggest challenge if you care to share that?
I think my biggest challenge now is moving around. Um, I'm not as agile as I used to be. No, I don't think so. I think we're looking back at I was doing this research the other day on post polio syndrome that as you grow older, there are some things that will happen. The limb might get weaker, and I have found that happening. But I'm not perturbed still. I say, God, you will do it. You will see me through. You will keep me through. I remember the other day I said, oh, I'm going to buy a wheelchair. And somebody said to me, don't buy no wheelchair. So I think that is my mobility. That's my greatest challenge now, my mobility.
Well, I,
And
I
that's,
imagine, I imagine as a result of the disease, that
yeah,
would have been an issue for the span of life because
yeah,
the limitations, mobility, agility, being able to make quick moves like every
yeah,
other beast,
yeah.
it's not part of what you're able to do.
And,
However, so disability but in itself is not really does not cause paralysis because people are disabled. And as you say, I might be disabled here, but boy am I sharp and brilliant and some
yeah.
other things, and my contribution to the kingdom and to the world is unique.
And it makes it is costly because you where I could just walk out there, somebody else could just walk out there, get a taxi, and you're going to Mandeville. It costs me much more than that because I need
Mm.
somebody to take me and to bring me to different points and to do what I have to do. But that doesn't happen. I have to pay the way, so it is costly. So that sometimes can be a challenge, but I know how to arrange things. So I don't need to go 2, 3 times for the week. I will go when it is absolutely necessary, and I'll do my thing in bulk so that I will have what I do have some persons who I can call and I say, look, I need you to do so and so for me. Can you do so and so for me? And they'll do it. I need it with all the technology now. I can get my bills paid online and things like that. So I try to make good use of it. One of the things that hurts sometimes when I like to go to church like at night, it's not possible. So that could be a challenge too. That challenges me, and I don't feel happy about that. But I say, God, you understand, the days when I could go, I went, and I did it, and I'll still do my whatever duties I have to do. I still do it. But that would be my greatest challenge. That those things would be my greatest challenge.
So I see you talk about we talk about the challenges and the Christians encounters that brings you joy. What are some of those encounters that bring you joy as you reflect on your own life? I know you've had your sad days, the bulk of your sad days in the earlier days of your life, and now you're simmering a little bit. What brings you the
Yeah.
most joy now?
What was that? Say that the last sentence,
I said,
Bishop.
what brings you the most joy now?
All the most joy that I have is to know that my relationship with God is clear. I find peace, and when I cannot say anything I can't tell John or I can't tell Mary, I'm glad I can tell it to Jesus. And he understands and he comforts me. He sends me the comfort. And I find that peace. My peace comes when I can help somebody, but I can share with somebody. Persons will come and they'll say, "This is happening, that is happening," and I'm there. I can say, "This has been my experience, and I've overcome. You too can overcome." I can lend a helping hand, and I can share with people what can be done. I don't believe in condemning persons. I believe my pleasure is when I can lift you from where you are and put you to another level. And I can
Amen.
walk you through instead of condemning you and throwing you away, but walk you through the situations and help you to overcome.
God
By
bless you. I must give a shout out to my real sister. I see one of my sisters pop up here a while ago. My real sister. Shout out to my sister. I'm breaking in to give a shout out to you. It's good to see you. God bless you. Okay. I'm talking to Sister Carole Peters, and her life has been a life of challenge, but she is also a determined person and a great achiever. A great achiever. She has not allowed her limitations. I'm not gonna say disability, right? I'm gonna say uh, I'm gonna say limitations. That sound like better than a disability, right?
Here we put it this way. We say we are otherwise abled.
All right,
and
all right.
and we make fun of it. Like for example, a friend of mine, we were walking downtown one day and a boy said, "Go away, you look a handicap you." And the girl said to him, "You're an idiot. You don't see a footy cap, we don't
Footy
handicap."
cap, typical
So we
Jamaican. That
make fun of it, we make light of it. And when people would stop me now and say, "Oh, what happened to you?" I would say, "Thank you for your concern, but those days are gone when I talk about it. I don't talk about those things anymore."
after a while it becomes my way of life, and I'm
Yeah, it is. It
adjusted.
is a norm. That's my normal.
Yeah,
That is my
exactly. And,
normal.
and
So
what
I
is my
don't
normal?
really.
I have to accept my normal. The thing that I can't change is not my problem. It's now my fact of life. So I gotta figure out how to do my fact of life. I'm not gonna expect a change to pop up tomorrow like some other people. It is what it is. So I'm getting up, going down psychologically prepared for getting up and taking it as it comes. All right. So God bless you. So tell me about your motivation. What your motivations and your achievement? What motivates Carol today? What causes Carol to get up and go?
I want to be independent. And I remember when my mother said, "You can make it. You can do it." I want to prove to people that if you have a challenge, you don't have to sit and cry over it. You can go, you can make it. When
Hmm.
I went to school, I spent time studying. Yeah, I spend time studying. I want to achieve. I want to do my best. I must not be last in the class. No, I must be first. I
All
must be
right.
first.
All right.
When I went to high school, as in first form, I came first for the 3 terms in that class, and
Wow.
onward I was either first, second, third, fourth, fifth, no further than there. I want to pass my exams, and I work hard passing my exams. I want to achieve. When I went to college and after the struggles, I worked hard to
Hmm.
achieve. And when I became a teacher, full-fledged teacher, my ambition and my desire, my motivation was to see my children succeed. And I was not mindful to teach the brilliant children, because when you're brilliant, you're just brilliant. I wanted to deal with those who were the slower ones, the weaker ones. And when I
You can't.
see them making it, well, that blows me. I feel like I've reached. I remember having these boys. I was about 15 boys and 5 girls, and they could not read in fourth form. They couldn't read. And the principal said, Miss Peters, I think I'm going to give them to you because you will help them. And when I went to the class for the first time and we sat down and we had a good chat as to what are some of the reasons why they were so slow, and they told me the reasons and so on. I said, we can get there, we can get there. And one boy said to me, Miss, don't put reading on the board. I said, why? He said, because there are children going to see reading and look how we're big. And I said, okay, I've never put reading on the board. But I took their textbooks that were they did their vocational subjects, and I took those books and I put them in the groups, and I taught those boys and girls to read. When I went on study leave, and my principal called me when the results came out, she said, "My girl, your boys and girls have made it.
Wow.
They have made it." When I went to that school, it is a new secondary school. CXE started that same year. And when I said to the principal, the group of students I have in grade 11, they are students who can sit the exam. He said to me, this is not a CXC school. And I was disappointed, but I went ahead. I took those children. I spent weekends with them. I spent my holidays with them, and they were successful. Just before we went to conference the other day, one of them called me. We chatted until about 12 o'clock the Wednesday night. And she said, Miss, today I live in New York, and today I have a good job. That girl, as she has taught in Africa and back. And she said, Miss, you remember those days? I'm motivated by that
Wow.
when I see them succeed. I go for 14 weekends living on campus, but take my bag on a Friday morning and I go to school. I don't go back to my flat until Monday evening. I camp out with those students. They have their sponges and their cardboard and their
Wow.
comforters, and I camp out with them. I prepare their meals. I organize study camps so that the other teachers can come in and work with them so that they can successfully make it. And then I would have on a Sunday morning 1 hour worship where I'd invite the different churches to come in and have a service with those children. They were dressed up just like they were going to church for that 1 hour, and I dubbed it the success camp. Those
Wow.
children were successful.
Wow.
So those things motivates me.
I'm
It
sure. I'm
really,
sure. I'm sure. I'm sure they love you. Just to
yeah, they do. They are my children, even now.
right.
Even now. If I say I have a headache, they say, Miss, do you want to go to the doctor? Miss, you have money to go to the doctor. And Dr. Beckford, they take very good care of me.
That is so nice. That is so.
Those are the
Nice.
things that motivates me.
That is so nice. That's a good story. That is a good story, and I think, and again, I'm just thinking because of it's your investment. It's like casting your bread on the waters, and you find it after many days. And I think because of your what you term you use, not disability, able,
Otherwise
otherwise
able.
able. Otherwise able. I think the children or the young people appreciate it even more because you are not as able as they are, in generally speaking, and you have taken the time to not focus on your own inabilities and to invest in them to make sure they cross their dark waters. That is priceless, may I say. That is priceless. And it is good to know that some of them at least, and I know not everybody gonna appreciate it, because some people cannot, some, no matter what you do for some people, they will never appreciate anything, because they don't have that within them to appreciate no matter what you do. But God bless the few. And I think it's like the same Pareto principle, that 20% of all of the people you invested in, 20% might be those who appreciate what you have done to and for them. And that 20% can make a vast difference in your life. Just to say, okay, there's only 2 out of 10. There's only 2 out of 10. As a matter of fact, that's even better than what Jesus experienced when he cleansed the lepers, because he cleansed 10 lepers, only one came back to say thank you. But so if that is a ratio or a quota that we're gonna use, then we still have something to say. God bless this one that comes back.
Yeah.
Wow, wow.
They have done well. They have done their part, and they are happy. There are some of them who say mommy, some say mom, some say auntie, and they are always there for me.
That's very
Always,
nice.
always
That's
there.
that's
When
very
it's my
nice.
birthday, they are always remembering it. They're always making sure that there is that gift for me. They always do. And it would appear as if I do have children, even though I don't have any biological children. I do have a number of children because I taught for 36 and a half years. So I do have
Wow.
a number of kids that
36 and a half years of teaching. Are you still teaching, or what do you do now?
I relax.
So-
When I retired, um, they were asking me to stay on. They were asking me to stay on, but I think I was in after I did that surgery, which was my fibroid surgery. I started developing a lot of pains in my back,
Mhm.
and standing was a problem. So I decided I was going to retire. The ministry asked me not to. They asked me. I worked for them afterwards. I still worked online, but I think I just gave it up. I just said, well, whatever is left really is for the Lord, because I said it in the beginning that when I leave teaching, I don't want to be bogged down with it. I want to work for the Lord. I want to do what God wants me to do. I think He has called me to do His work. I remember out of a very young age when I got saved, I remember this person ministering into my life and said, the truth is God has called you to minister His word. And I remember the first message I preached, I was 15 years old.
Hmm.
And it was at a crusade I ministered. And even today, I see people and they said to me, you remember that night when you preached
Hmm.
about the woman at the well? That was
Wow.
the night I got saved. And I feel good. I still think there's much more in me to do for the Lord. I went to seminary not by choice, because that was the last place I thought I would go. But I was coerced into going, even though what it led there, I wanted to change my course. I wanted to go into career counseling, and I made the application, went for the interview, got through everything, and then it was my guidance counselor, who is a pastor, he called me on my way that day. And he said to me, you know, we are here chatting you. I said to her, why? And he said, because we're saying that we don't think career counseling is where you should go, but you should go to the seminary, go into ministry. And I said, no, no, not going there. And he was there beseeching me and begging me. And then my driver said, Miss Peters, just listen and come. We could go down there. So I went. And when I went and I got to the office, the receptionist, I told him what I wanted. And he said, oh, you know, we have actually closed application. We are getting ready for interviews now. This was in the month of April. Well, I was so happy then. And I said, okay, thank you very much. He said, you could apply for January. I said, okay. Because here I was well on my way. I had everything going for me in the institution I wanted to go. So it wasn't a big bother. But as I walked away, I heard somebody said, hello. And I looked around. There was this gentleman. He came through a door and he said,
I think I heard that on the Zoom room.
yeah. He said,
Yeah.
come here, what you want? And he did an interview, and that was how I got into seminary. And I did well there. Yeah. And I
Oh,
have,
somebody's happy to meet you personally last weekend, huh?
yeah.
Still more fortunate than I am.
Yes, I've met quite a few persons. So that is it. But I'm motivated by helping people. I'm motivated to bring up those who are down and let them find a place in society and find out that they are not done. And I particularly go for those persons who have a challenge,
That is great.
whatever it
That
is.
is that is great. The heart of compassion and care and wanting to see others succeed. And sometimes you have to invest more in some people, and that's where your passion is, to invest more. And the truth is, you see greater result. Then the result is really
Yes.
obvious when one was considered not, not being able, or like, no, this one is not a great achiever, not gonna come up to anything. And then when you see it comes out, you say, well, never. The Jamaican saying, if it's not dead, don't call it ghost.
Right? And they said I wouldn't come off to anything. So
And
persons have said to me, teachers have said to me about students, you really about with that opinion, you know, say now go pass the exam. I say, well, to me, exam is not a privilege, it's a right for every child. And that particular girl, when I took her back to school and I worked with her and she passed her exam and she went on to Sydney Pagan. And then after that, I said to the mother, where are you going to send her now? She said, Miss, we don't have the money now. And I remember sitting and watching television one night and I saw the nursing program at Knox, Com College. And I called her, I said, look here, man, she can go. She can go. Let her go. And she went. She did well. But coming to the last part of her exam, she got pregnant. And her
wow,
mother was her mother was ready to give it up. And I said, no, she's not the first one. She's not going to be the last one either. It's not that I'm compromising with her, but you have to give her a chance. You have to take that child and let her finish her course. Today, that girl heads the maternity ward
wow,
at Spanish Town Hospital.
wow,
And that son that she has is an engineer, graduated from the Maritime Institute.
wow.
Yeah, works on the ship. And when she spoke to me the other day, she said to me, Miss, I'll never ever forget you. I love you so much.
I
So
think,
it's really bringing people from down there and bringing them.
my guess, and I'm just guessing, and you could tell me wrong or right. My guess is that you use yourself as a prime example of what one can achieve, and you could never um, come to a conclusion that one will not make it. because one, you had your disabilities in the early days of the, I mean, for your lifetime, for that matter, and you were treated accordingly by some people,
Mhm.
belittled and doubted by some. And when you look at your own self and how you have achieved and what you have achieved and what you have made out of your own life, I'm guessing that that is one of the driving forces that tells you deep down, if they had given up on me, my mother had given up on me, or some of the good teachers that I came across in my life, or some of the wonderful people that I came across who have invested in my life, who believed in me and helped me to become who I am going to have the same approach to the people who some have considered not being able to achieve, or non-achievers, even not just low achievers but non-achievers. Some people just say, "Oh,
Non-achievers. Yes.
I'm
I think
guessing."
you're right. You're right, Dr. Beckford. You're right. You're right. That is what I use. I use that too. And I always use myself as the example to them. I always say to them, listen, and I share my story with them. I share
Mhm.
my story with them. I tell them what I've been through. I tell them how I was treated. I tell them, and it's not just ordinary people or people who you think they're illiterate who do these things to you. The educated persons will do it too, because I remember being at school and I remember one day I saw one of the cleaners coming to me, and she came to me and she had tears in her eyes. And I said, what's wrong? Something is wrong. And she said, no, miss, it's you I come to. And I said, what happened? And she said, miss, I don't know what you said to that teacher out there, but the teacher said, um, if she's so awful and she's so fierce, I wouldn't want to see her wall.
Wow.
Maybe some people would not understand what I said. If you have a
Yeah, I
disability
know,
and
I
you're
know,
not
I know.
right.
So
So
if just let me interpret that for
yes,
those who maybe
interpret.
don't. It's a if she's so fierce and she only have. I imagine if she was wholer. What does mean? If she's so out of order and rude and she's not even at her full ability to get around, I can't imagine what she would be like if she was able to move like the average person. That's the and that is the sarcasm in that, and it is astounding.
Yeah, and I said to her, I said, don't cry. I said, don't cry. Because guess what? It's I can deal with mine because I don't know anything else. I don't know a day that I've not been as I am. I don't know. But I said, she might encounter something that she cannot deal with because she has never been there.
Hmm.
So don't cry, don't worry. Dr. Beckford, after I said that, believe me, I reached a point where I was sorry because she had an accident. And even till today, she cannot wear her shoes with high heels,
Wow.
you know? And I had to turn around and to comfort her,
Wow.
you know? I had to turn around and tell her, this is not persons. I remember in '09, yes, 2009, my principal called me in one evening, on Monday evening, and she said to me, I went to a principal's meeting over the last weekend, and we're supposed to select a teacher for the LASCO Ministry of Education Teacher of the Year award. So before she could even finish, I said, Miss, I hope it's not me, because I don't join those things. I don't go. I'm not taking no limelight. And she said to me, and I thought about you, and every teacher I asked, they said, you. I said, Miss, I'm not going. I'm not taking it up. That challenge, I will not take up. As I don't want that limelight. I don't want it. And Reverend Robert Williams, who was our music director at school, walked in same time. And she said, come here, Rev. Rev went. She said to Rev, Rev, this is the situation and Miss Peters is saying she's not doing it. Could you talk to her for me? And Rev said, Miss P, take it up, man, do it. I said, no, Rev, I'm not doing it. I'm not going there. I don't want to go there. I don't want that publicity. No, I don't want it. Well, they talked and talked until I said, all right, if that is it, let me go. And I went.
Mm,
And even the day when I was nominated to represent my region, Region 5, and when the excitement hit school and everybody was so excited, I was there nervous, can't bear it anymore. And when I went to the Pegasus, six teachers representing the six regions were sitting around the table. And the Honorable Andrew Onis was the education minister then. He came to the table and he started asking which school you're from, that school, that school. There was a teacher who was sitting there and she looked at me, she said, you could never get it.
mm, wow.
And I held my head down with the tears running down my eyes. My principal across over there, she saw and she sent the teacher to ask me what was wrong. And I told her. And she said, don't worry, be calm. One of my education officers walked over and she stooped down and she said, what's wrong? And I told her. She said, don't worry, don't worry. I was in the top three
Wow. You can
and
never
I
get it.
was not in the
So
top.
they're still looking down, still
So
looking down, and still
they
looking
still look
down.
down on you. They
Even,
still
even at that point, they can't even be appreciative of the fact that you could even come to the process to be at this table. Some people can't absorb or digest that. They look at it on the low side as opposed to say, "Wow, you're a great achiever, man. I'm so proud of you making it this far that you've been even considered." They say, "Oh, she can never make it." Wow. This is a special night because I see another of my sisters on. I got two sisters on here tonight. That is not normal for me. Actually, three of my sisters. Oh my God. I should be telling my own story. I got three of my sisters on tonight. Wow. Kudos to all of my sisters. Shout out to you. Thank you for joining me. This must be a very special night. I have this very, very professional, well learned lady with otherwise able than some of us are, as we call it. And Sister Peters, I'm glad to get to know you because, and again, thank God for the Zoom room. A lot of people we've gotten to know through the Zoom room. And I think now that you have retired, no wonder you are available at all Zoom room everything. So so your end of one thing is the beginning of another for you, and so I am sure everybody is appreciative. I saw a couple of you the Zoom room professionals here tonight. I saw this Dr. Ming earlier. I saw Sister Blair earlier, and Mr. Archibald is always on, and I saw that Sister Carly too, and some of those wonderful people who we're familiar seeing on the
Zoom
Zoom
room.
room. Just God bless you. I'm just glad to have met you and to hear a little bit of your story. And I am glad, I'm blessed because I've heard some of the story that we haven't heard tonight because I heard those in the green room as we call it. So I know a little bit more than what my guests know.
Yes, you
Which is
do.
okay. I know a little bit more than what my guests know. But one of these days when Sister Peters is comfortable to rip the mask off the whole thing and say, Dr. Beckford, I'm ready now to, I'm just going to lay it on the table.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
going to lay
waiting for that. I'm waiting. That mask will come. I think it will come off. We have just heard it, so that one will eventually come off, Dr. Beckford. See, it came off with you. I did with
Yeah,
you,
little by
so
little, and I
little
appreciate
by little it will come
that. I do
off.
appreciate that. I do
Yeah.
appreciate that. As somebody said earlier that yeah, somebody that I know actually said tell that story, because the stories, the hardest part of the stories of life are what brings the most inspiration and blessing to the lives of others. Reason is because people sometimes are going through the same thing or have been through the same thing and don't know how to deal with it, and sometimes people are going through things and they think that they are the only one who are going through that or who have been through that. But when they hear that other people have been through the same thing and they made it through, then it gives them the inspiration, the motivation to say, I can do it. If you can, then I can as well. Your purpose, and we're going to give you a closing statement for tonight, and your purpose, and what else would you want to say to somebody who are otherwise able, and other somebody who people look down on, and slighted, and for those who people pitied, right? Because one thing I get to know about you, you don't want nobody
No.
pity you. You don't want to be pitied. And you're not looking out for handouts, and you don't want no Mister Wonderful come and have no sympathy for you. I have known all of that now about you.
Yes. My purpose, I want to serve the Lord with all of my heart. I want to do everything that He wants me to do. I want to leave behind footprints on the sands of time.
Amen.
I want people to remember me for not the weakest part of me, but how I've inspired and helped people. And I listened to Dr. Notice, and she used this phrase, I did not know I would have come this far. And I honestly did not know that I would be alive today.
Hmm.
I didn't know I would even be sitting here talking to you, Dr. Beckford. That never dawned on me.
Well, you never know me, so that wouldn't dawn on you without even knowing me. But
But
since.
God has a way of doing his thing. I'd say to people who have a challenge, whatever it is, do not give up.
Hmm.
Don't give up. Don't live on pity street. Don't give up. There is hope for you, and you can make it. Be strong and tell yourself, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Amen and amen and amen. My friends, sisters, brothers, friends, everybody everywhere, it is not too late to share this. Hit the share button and share it with your friends, because her story will be there to relive over and over and over again for decades to come. And I can't wait. I can't wait for her to give me a buzz, because now she has my contacts. She got my email. She got my phone number. She knows where to find me. She sees me on the Zoom room. She knows how to contact me now. So if she goes home tonight, not go home. She's home. If when we cut off tonight, she said that the Lord gives her the release and say, you know what, it's time for you to tell. Call Dr. Breckford and tell him, set up my part two. I'm ready now to break the seal off. Break the seal off. Deliver myself and deliver
I'll pray about
others.
it, Dr.
Amen.
Beckford. I'll pray
Keep
about it.
praying, keep praying about it. But I appreciate you. I'm not pushing you. I'm not pushing you. I appreciate you being on here tonight, and sharing your story with me from the beginning. My friends, if you didn't hear when we started, she has been affected with the poliomyelitis disease at a baby stage, and the rest of her life has been lived with that. She was born very well, but all of a sudden, boom, and there goes her life, with the otherwise able. We're not gonna use the disabled thing, because
No,
she's not,
otherwise
she's
able.
otherwise able, and
Able.
she has made good out of her life. She has progressed, she has made strides, and she has accomplished a lot, and she has touched numerous lives with her profession and her compassion. I like that. With her profession and her compassion. And I like that combination. Profession and compassion. Thank you so much, Sister Peters. I am
You're
going to get
welcome,
to
Bishop
hear you.
Beckford.
The Zoom room appreciates you. The Zoom room, and here, look who's just popping on here. Reverend Ashana Knight is just popping up here tonight. Way at what time in England now? This is way, way, way past, in the wee hours of the morning now. But she's here. She's here, and thanking you. And we will. As I said, you're invaluable. And I'm not speaking for the what the word I want to use, the people, the team who in charge of the Zoom room. But I know the fact that I hear you so many times, and you've been called on so many times, it tells me that you have a lot of value, and your input is priceless, and so you are always been called to make a contribution, and so you are greatly appreciated. I know I will see more of you, God's willing, and I'll hear more of you. And one of these days, I can't wait to meet you. I know I won't meet you at the women's conference like some of the people you met at the women's conference. I won't meet you at the women's conference. Some of the guys you met at the, I'm trying it out there, like some of the brothers you met at the
Yes,
women's
I met
conference.
quite a few of them.
I will talk to some of those men that you met at the women's conference. I saw Dr. Ming here say here, and I heard, Peters, much love and blessings always. Thank you so much, my friends, for joining. Thank you for spending the time with us. She is a wonderful, wonderful lady, and I'm glad I've gotten to know her, and I hope one of these days I get to meet her personally, and I can touch her and see if she's real. All right.
I am real, Bishop. I am real. It was my pleasure being here tonight. And I hope that somebody would have been blessed. And I hope that somebody would be inspired. And that somebody would move from where you are and go where God wants you to be. Yes. I think I said to the Lord, if you can use anything, Lord, use me.
I know Dr. Ming met you met Dr. Ming, right?
Yeah, I met Dr. Ming.
Okay, so you met her before me, and now she's telling me you are real, so she got a chance to touch you, so she know you are real.
Yes, I'm
Sister
real. I'm for
Child,
real.
everybody's telling me that she's real. I believe she's real, but I'm just quoting the song. Let me touch you and see if you're real. All right, I'm gonna be like Thomas, say unless I can reach my finger and trust my hand, then I won't believe. But I do believe, and I appreciate you, and thank you so much for
Thank
your
you for
contribution.
having
Thank you
me,
for being
Doctor.
so pleasant.
Yeah.
Thank you for being so pleasant and so warm, and so sociable and so kind, and your responses. And I guess because you're a teacher, your profession, but um people see you on the Zoom room, see you behind your camera, would not have a clue unless you say it, what your disabilities are, and are your limitations, or your otherwise ability. I must keep on reminding myself of that. Until the next time, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you
me. I
very
look
much.
forward to
Nice,
seeing
Bishop.
you.
Yes, thank
My
you.
friends, hit your share button and go tell your friends about a great story of a humble servant of God who has come a long way and still has not completed her journey, because now she's giving her skills and profession and her knowledge to the kingdom of God, helping to touch lives as she goes forward to our next chapter. Right? Make sure you're following me on Facebook, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm also on TikTok. I'm also on Twitter, and I'm taking ministry even onto TikTok. So hey, if you're ticking and you're talking, please look for ORB Ministries. I am there. We can do kingdom building together. We're gonna take it where the Lord will allow us. Until next time, I want to thank you for joining me, and I hope that everything will go well with you. And by the way, if you I heard somebody say that she's telling my story. By the way, if you have a story that you'd like to share, the door is open. Let's talk about it. Email me orbministries@gmail.com, and then we can have a conversation. We can talk about your story as well. All right, it might be a blessing. Heaven will record. You might gain stars on your crown by touching lives with your story. God bless you. Until next time, peace and blessings be with you, my friends. Sister Peters, you're gonna stay there. We'll talk offline like when we started. So, my friends, see you next
Okay,
time
that's
on
good.
another Let's Talk with the Doc. Peace.
Well, thank you for checking in on ORB Ministries. I trust that you will share with your friends, subscribe, hit the bell for notification, and stay tuned, because you never know what's next or who will join the conversation.